Today we'll be talking about CTE 101, relevant to where we are in career and technical education today. It won't be a history of CTE from the beginning of time, but with the current goal of education in New York State being to prepare students to be college and career ready, we'll look at some of the basic reasons that CTE is at the forefront of many conversations at the local, state, and even federal levels. It's also my goal to share some resources that you can use to access further information. In June of 2012, the PTE Committee of the Board of Regents, the P12 Committee of the Board of Regents, charged the Department of Education with forming a CTE advisory panel made up of education stakeholders, including business and industry. The charge to the panel was to develop recommendations for strengthening the CTE K-12 learning continuum that forms the instructional basis for a CTE graduation pathway. That report came before the P12 Education Committee in January of 2013. The statement you see on the screen comes from the report of that committee. We've been seeing many changes over the past several years, and even this month, the work of the committee will come again before the Board of Regents as it looks to approve pathways for graduation, which we will touch on a bit more in this conversation. Today, the image of CTE is still questionable. A lot of people still widely perceive CTE as the vocational education that they experienced either as a child or for someone that they knew. Again, we have a lot of people talking about the importance of career and technical education today, but still we are sometimes reticent to let our best and brightest students go into CTE programs or our own students. But as you look at career and technical education at the high school level as a part of the continuum, students can start earning college credit, industry credentials, and it becomes a part of their pathway as they move through life. In today's CTE environment, it helps prepare students for their future of college and career readiness. In the 1970s, there were definite pathways. You were either going to college or you were probably going to go into vocational training. But as the decades went by, we realized that employers needed our students to have strong academic and career-specific skills to successfully enter the world of work. We also started to realize that students in career and technical education were continuing on into post-secondary pursuits, often working on credentials that are important in their chosen career field that they may have started at the secondary level. And today, we know that helping our students to understand the relevance of the rigorous academic work that they do is the best way to engage students. In the real world of work, we constantly apply our academic knowledge skills, and it's important that we provide opportunities for our students to do so as they become college and career ready. So the convergence of academics and CTE has become almost seamless. So let's look at that transition in another way. If you look at the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that CTE is responsive to helping students become independent learners and workers. And especially if you look at the right-hand side, the bottom bullet, CTE is appropriate in all schools and for all students. I typically recommend that if someone has not read Pathways to Prosperity, that is an important piece of work to read. However, there are 3 suggested readings, and much of the information that I'll share in my presentation comes from those bodies of research. Again, if we look at college-ready implications, we seem to assume that everyone needs to pursue a 4-year degree immediately after high school. Many people continue their educational and career goals over many years and take many paths on that journey. As this information indicates, there are career areas that do not require an immediate 4-year degree. For example, even looking at healthcare occupations, if you look at the pie chart on the bottom, 35% of the jobs in healthcare require some on-the-job training. However, it doesn't mean that people with associate's or bachelor's degrees might not be filling some of those positions. The post-secondary education below a bachelor's degree level makes up the preponderance of the job opportunities in the healthcare profession. Obviously, our goal is that everyone have at least a high school diploma. Again, if you look at these trends in New York State by 2018, the bottom bullet says that 37% of the options and opportunities will require a high school degree or less. Obviously, we want our students to get a high school degree. However, even for the students who may not be able to achieve that goal, New York State has instituted the Career Development and Occupational Studies Credential, or the CDOS credential, for students with disabilities to help them become more career ready, whether they receive a high school diploma or not. And even if our students do get to college, there is no guarantee that they will be successful or continue in their initial chosen field. If we start to do a better job in kindergarten or pre-K through 12 in helping students explore and understand career areas, these college completion rates may also look different in the future. So, CTE can help prepare students to explore the world of a career area, gain some skills and possibly post-secondary credits while in high school, and be better prepared to make decisions that will meet his or her individual interests and needs. If you look at the second bullet, again, 27% of those with post-secondary licenses, certificates, or credentials short of an associate's degree can earn more than an average bachelor's degree recipient. So some of our students can be gainfully employed while they are continuing their post-secondary journey. So as we work with students, our post-secondary opportunities need to be presented as a broader array of opportunities. And post-secondary education, again, for many, is a lifelong journey. So they may start with an apprenticeship or in the military and then continue on. And career and technical education skills and credentials help them to move throughout those. We also need to remember that our students can live very successful lives with skills they acquired through career and technical education. In today's world, a bachelor's degree does not guarantee a job, nor does it guarantee a good salary. As we discussed previously, for many students, being engaged in a career area of their choice helps them become more successful in their academic pursuits as well. So much research has indicated that students who are involved in career and technical education attend school more, graduate on time more, and are more successful. For example, a student using geometry in a construction program has an understanding of the need for and importance of those math skills in a very different way than just in your typical mathematics classroom. So why is there this renewed focus on career and technical education? Studies have shown that students learn faster and retain concepts better when taught rigorous and relevant academic material in the context of real-world applications. CTE students have increased graduation rates and improved exit exam passing rates than students in the general population. Studies have shown that post-secondary students who participated in high school CTE combined with integrated curriculum and work-based learning opportunities achieved higher wages, and the risk of dropping out is 4 times higher when students took no CTE courses than when students completed 3 such courses. So there is a great deal of interest in providing these opportunities for more students. In his book, The Coming Job Wars, Jim Clifton talks about what Gallup learned about students who drop out of school. Gallup found that kids drop out of school when they lose hope to graduate. And as we think about a lot of the students that we work with who struggle to pass some of the high-stakes exams and take some of the courses over and over, we know students who are losing hope to graduate. When they lose hope of graduating, they don't feel excited about what's next in their lives. And if they don't see a connection between what they're doing in school and their future, they do lose that hope. Students who participate in career and technical education can see a direct connection in what they're learning in school and life after school. That can be a college choice or other choice. In his address in 2009, President Obama talked about committing to at least 1 year or more of higher education or career training beyond high school. He talked about vocational training, apprenticeships, doing something to get more than a high school diploma. At about the same time, there was a lot of work being done, a collaboration of many organizations, to develop a common core of standards internationally benchmarked and, again, aligned with work and post-secondary education expectations. And as time went by, the first draft of the Common Core went out, but their initial title was College and Career Readiness Standards. And New York State has still adopted the concept of preparing all of our students to be college and career ready. John King, in December of 2010, sent out a memo and indicated that the Board of Regents in the State Education Department would be looking to answer these questions. What knowledge, skills, and dispositions should students have when they graduate from high school? And should all our expectations be the same for all students? When he did a presentation for the New York State School Boards in 2012, he continued in this vein. He indicated that while graduation rates were slowly improving in 2012, college instructors reported that 42% of high school graduates are still not ready for college, and employers reported that 45% of graduates were unprepared for work. So as New York State implements its reform agenda, the commissioner stated this, that he and the board continue to examine how to best utilize career and technical education to further the reform goals and ensure college and career readiness for all students. Which brings us to the definition that we use today in New York State for college and career readiness. And there are 3 domains of college and career readiness. So I asked you, as you look at this, are you addressing all of these domains in your work in education with students? We have spent a lot of time on the core academic knowledge and skills over the past several years. But when we look at career-specific opportunities for students to gain knowledge and skills and competencies to pursue and succeed in a chosen career, and those key behaviors and attitudes, those knowledge and skills that will help students successfully transition from high school to college or careers, are we addressing those in our work with our students? At this past September Board of Regents meeting, this vision was shared with the members as they look to approve pathways for graduation. And this approval may happen as soon as this October. These pathways will use the career and technical education model as they move forward. So we're going to look at where CTE has been since the latest policy update. And if there are any questions up to this point, I'm happy to address those.
You don't have any questions at this time, Carol.
Perfect, thanks. Some feel that this policy change in 2001 was one of the defining moments for career and technical education. It marks a change from vocational education classes to career and technical education. The policy refined and standardized career and technical education programs across the state. Now, if they are approved CTE programs, they need to be aligned to state, national, and industry standards, and the approval process added merit to CTE programs, creating an awareness to the business and educational community of what CTE is and how it can be a viable option for all students. We still have a lot of work to do in helping our colleagues in education understand the role we play in preparing students for life after graduation. And one of the things that this policy did was to provide flexibility and opportunities for students to achieve state academic standards as a part of their career and technical education program. The CTE program approval process is nationally recognized and has certain criteria that must be met. So for those of you who have business, technology, agriculture, family consumer science teachers in your 912 settings, but do not have approved career and technical education programs of study, you may want to consider this as an option in the future. The CTE programs have curriculum aligned with state and national learning standards. They have rigorous curriculum and a coherent sequence program of study. They have CTE curriculum aligned with post-secondary education, career pathways, taught by certified faculty with the appropriate academic and industry experiences. There are technical assessments, which we will talk more about in a moment, that meet current industry standards. There are always post-secondary articulation agreements that provide students with college credit or advanced standing. Students have work-based learning opportunities through these programs, and the follow-up data is a robust reporting infrastructure. If you look at the steps of going through program approval, you can see that any program could actually benefit from going through such a process. The initial steps are through a self-study. You have input from various stakeholders, the CTE teachers, general education teachers, administrators, business and industry representatives, students, and sometimes parents. You do an analysis of the curriculum to align it with industry and look for rigor as you prepare those application materials. After you feel that you have a good program to present, there is another step, the external review. This is an opportunity to bring in other stakeholders to review, address, to look at the program, make recommendations for enhancement if need be, and once they approve it, they sign off. And then it gets forwarded to the superintendent of schools or district superintendent for approval. It goes to the Board of Education, that you submit statements of assurance. It's signed by the superintendent and your board president, and it moves on to the state education department. At that point, the program is looked by a subject specialist at state ed. They may make recommendations for changes or enhancement. And finally, you get a letter that says it is approved for 5 years with an option for renewal. And again, the key elements of the approval program provide flexibility in the delivery of core academic courses for students. The students have work, skills, employability profile, and experiences. They take a technical assessment. So students who complete that program will graduate with a Regents Diploma or a Regents Diploma with advanced designation plus a technical endorsement stating they have met the criteria of an industry. The technical assessments are a great tool to benchmark where your students are regarding mastery in the content. They're an excellent way for teachers and administrators to evaluate the rigor of the program. And again, the technical endorsement goes on a high school diploma where students have to meet all of the academic core, plus they have to pass a 2-part technical assessment, a written and a performance. They must complete a student project, and at the current time, still pass the minimum of 5 Regents examinations. There may be some flexibility in that if the pathways go through. Previously, there was a blue ribbon commission to look at some of those technical assessments. The Board of Regents wanted to ensure that if they made any changes in the requirements for graduation, that the technical exam would be as rigorous as a Regents exam. Up to this point, they have looked at several of the technical assessments and have adopted 13 of them that were proven to be of equal or greater rigor to a Regents exam. So again, these will be used to create multiple pathways, hopefully, if the Board of Regents approves that option. In the future, this commission will be reconvened again to look at additional technical exams that are of equal or greater rigor than a Regents. And they will do additional work as we move forward to looking at options for graduation. Let's just look at a couple of the approved programs in the state. And I took one from a larger BOCES, and this is a Certified Aviation and Flight Instructor program. This one, students are actually getting credit within the program for English language arts, math, and science. Now, the interesting thing, if you look at the third bullet up from the top, their scores in reading and math increase as they work in the program. And at the bottom, it indicates because the students are getting ELA credits within their program, they have the option of taking their English 11 Regents in the BOCES setting as opposed to back at the home school, and they have an 85% pass rate in this program. In a smaller school setting, in an ag science program, again, you have engagement from the board, the superintendent, from employers, from the entire community, working with these students and providing not only academic opportunities, but work-based experiences. And these students have those real-world opportunities to analyze options for equipment purchases and do a lot of the work that they would be doing in a real-world setting. 100% of their concentrators graduate, and they have 93% attendance. And you'll see that the student profile is very similar to many schools around the state. So again, this is the pathway option that the Board of Regents is considering and will vote on this month. It will be 4 regions plus 1. And the plus 1 will need to be an approved assessment that has been deemed to be equal to or greater in rigor than a Regents. To their credit, there are multiple pathways being considered with the CTE process as a Now, from our perspective, if you are working in the world of arts, humanities, STEM, it's all the world of work, and career and technical education and the standards that it holds are appropriate for all of those areas. So the next thing that we will do is look at some tools and resources that educators can use as they consider CTE opportunities and options in their school. But again, I'll stop for a moment and see if there are any questions.
You do have one question, Carol. It's just asking what program areas does CTE cover?
CTE covers, well, you know what? We're going to go on to the next slide, and it will answer that question. But in typical schools, your comprehensive high schools, it's usually business education, family consumer science, agriculture, technology, and there are a lot of the trades and other programs in some of the larger schools. There can be construction, there can be cosmetology, it can be, as you saw, aeronautics in one situation. So it can cover the full gamut, but in most schools there are your traditional CTE teachers. A lot of times we don't think of business and family consumer science teachers as career and technical education teachers, but those programs do fall under the CTE area. So moving on, using the national career clusters, if you look at the right-hand side of the screen, there are standards called the Common Career Technical Core, which are based on the 60 national career clusters. And on the left-hand side, those are some of the areas that fall under the New York State CTE standards. And when we are helping teachers and students to explore and have an awareness about all areas of the world of work, using the national career clusters can be beneficial from an instructional perspective. Basically, career clusters are just groupings of occupations based on common knowledge and skills. It's not a new idea. If you've looked at any of the guidance software, career exploration software, even the Department of Labor at the state and federal level, use the career clusters for grouping the world of work. So it's not a new idea, but what's new is that it's not only a guidance model, but it's also starting to be used as an instructional model.
Hey, Carol, this is Gretchen. I have to interrupt you. It looks like your slides have froze. The attendees can't see them, so I'm not sure if they're frozen on your end, but what I would suggest is just taking a second to close your PowerPoint. Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Are you there?
Yes, it looks like they've moved.
Yeah, sorry, there was a little note that told me that it was paused.
Okay.
So most students learn about jobs and careers around them from their parents or other significant adults in their lives. And basically, this is a fairly narrow picture of the thousands of occupations an individual might be interested in as they move on. As I always tell teachers, we only know what we know, and we need to allow our students to explore beyond what we know. From kindergarten to the end of elementary, students should be exposed to the broad concepts of the world of work and the 16 career clusters. But starting in middle grades, students should have the opportunity to do some career exploration. What talents and skills do they have innately that could be applied to a future career interest? And we know that by the end of 8th grade, they're going to have to start making some decisions as to what courses they take, less now than it used to be in the past. But it's desirable that students develop a high school graduation plan to intentionally guide students through high school. If the Board of Regents votes on those pathway options, this will be even more important to our students as they enter 9th through 12th grade. So the career pathways, we said that there are 16 career clusters. And within those career clusters, there are 79 career pathways. So, for example, in agriculture, food, and natural resources, there are 7 pathways. And in this example, we see that there are several pathways and there are several career options. One of the reasons I chose to use this as an example, in New York State, agribusiness is the largest growing industry, and a lot of it stems from our awareness about how to grow things in different ways and in looking at the science of agribusiness. Within the system, there are hundreds of career specialties and occupations. At the bottom, we're only showing 5. This slide is a reminder of how diverse and varied career options are within the career pathways. And again, it's also a reminder that we may not have a lot of information about all of the options our students will have when they leave school. We can also help students learn about the educational requirements for different aspects of a career cluster in which they may be interested. So providing them with the opportunity to think about areas that they may be interested, and then providing them opportunities to explore and do some research about what the world of work looks like in their career choices will help them make better decisions. Information on the clusters, the pathways, I've mentioned the Common Career Technical Course Standards. There are sample programs of study for teachers or administrators on this site that is provided by the National Association of State Directors of Technical Education. And you'll notice up in the upper left-hand corner that there's a red oval around one of the tabs, Career and Technical Education. There is a great deal of information to be found there for educators, and it's a great place to start. And I just wanted to share with you some of the information you can find there, because it's information that is very helpful for people who are especially trying to get started. So I'll keep with my theme of agriculture, food, and natural resources. But for each and every career cluster, you will find a starting page that looks like this. You'll see in green the name of the career cluster, and beneath it for all career clusters will be similar information. It has the Common Career Technical Course Standards with performance elements, and it has knowledge and skills statements for that cluster. Those are particularly helpful if you are looking to develop a curriculum or to update and align your curriculum with national standards. For each of the clusters, and you'll notice that there are plans of study below for each of the pathways. These are sample plans of study, and we'll look at this. If you are thinking about developing academies, you're developing pathways for your students, and it's not an area of expertise that you currently have, this is a great place for you to start. The career cluster frames we're going to look at in a moment, which provides a broad overview for each cluster, the pathways, and samples of the career specialties. It's like a placemat for each one of the career clusters, and it can be used for multiple reasons. And then the last piece is the relevant credentials. And we talked about the fact that through career and technical education at the secondary level, students can start acquiring some stackable credentials and take them from high school to the world of work or college with them and have some career-ready skills that they can use. This is that career cluster frame that is available for each of the clusters. And again, if you look at this, it shows you the pathways. There are 7 pathways in the Ag, Food, and Natural Resources cluster. And on the top, it shows all of the sample career specialties and occupations. So again, if students say they want to be engineers, if you look, there are bioengineers, there are fiber engineers, there are many different areas that students can look into. And they're areas that we may not be aware of. This is a sample of one of the programs of studies that can help educators have a starting place for building new programs. It can also be used if you have current programs that are being updated. This sample document shows an example of what students could be taking 9 through 12. There's the PDF version, which you see in front of you, and there's also an Excel version, which is blank, where you would go in your system and put the requirements in your school or the options in your school for students as they move through. It also indicates the articulation agreements and dual credits that are options for your students. And if somebody is looking at moving into year 13, 14, etc., they can look at some of those options for students as well. Each of these documents are 3 pages long. The first page would be similar to this in each case. The second page will give you a step-by-step idea of how you can go about creating these programs in your own school, indicating the various stakeholders and looking at technical assessments, all of the things that are required in the New York State CTE approval process, as well as course descriptions for the CTE courses, the suggested CTE courses in this pathway. I talked briefly about the components of the Common Career Technical Core, and again, my goal today is just to make you aware of all of these resources and options that are available to you should you decide to create or update career technical education programs for your students. On the left-hand side, it talks about 12 career-ready practices that address the knowledge, skills, and dispositions critical to becoming career-ready. These are meant to be taught within all programs of study. But I would go so far as to say these should be addressed if we are to have college and career-ready students throughout our curriculum in all courses. If you recall the 3 domains of college and career readiness that we spoke about, These 12 career-ready practices address those key behaviors and attitudes that is a part of helping a student to become college and career ready. On the right-hand side, there are content standards for each of the 16 career clusters and their corresponding pathways. These can be used to crosswalk your programs with a set of current national standards specifically addressing career clusters and pathways. These are the career-ready practices, the 12 career-ready practices. As these were being developed, they were aligned to the Common Core in English Language Arts and Math, but these are most specifically aligned with the standards of mathematical practices covering all of the requirements of Math K through 12. They're similar to the 21st century learning standards and can be integrated into all coursework, whether CTE or not. Another area or tool that's available to everyone in New York State free of charge is through the Department of Labor with collaboration with the New York State Education Department. It's a resource that allows students to explore careers related to their strengths, skills, and talents. Now, some schools have other resources and programs within their schools, but again, this is an opportunity for all schools to have a resource while working with their students. The Department of Labor at the New York State level and at the federal level have many resources for teachers to use and to expand a student's awareness of the variety of career options and opportunities that they'll have in their futures. So providing opportunities for students to explore these or for teachers to explore and use some of these in their classrooms will be beneficial for everyone. And obviously we have our CTE Technical Assistance Center website. If you look on the left in the red area, there are so many resources that are available to you. And you look in the center, it says first time user video tutorial and tutorial handout. When you first go in, you will set up a profile which will give you access to all of the information on the site. But please be aware that there are 6 field team associates in the state that are available to help you become familiar with our tools, as well as help you through the process of enhancing career opportunities for your students in your schools. And obviously, the New York State Education Department website, if you just search CTE, it will bring you to this website that has all of the current information needed by educators relative to career technical education. And you'll notice on the right-hand side there are updates, there are reminders, and there is guidance relative to career technical education. And you'll notice over on the left-hand side at the bottom, it also has information for the CTE Technical Assistance Center, another way for you to reach us. So, hopefully, you've gained a general understanding of how CTE helps to fulfill the Regents initiative of developing college and career students, a basic knowledge of the program approval process. If it's something that you would like to go through, we can help you further in that, and an awareness of some CTE-specific tools and resources that you can use in your professional capacity. The next steps that you see on your screen will be taking place at the state level in the near future, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more about them and how they will influence your work and opportunities for your students in the future. But again, the CTE Technical Assistance Center is ready to help you as you work to share this information with your colleagues and other stakeholders in your schools. Finally, the information here and on our website will give you contact information if you need it in the future. To contact any of the field team associates, you can look on our website, or again, you can call the 518-723-2137 number. Thank you again for sharing your time with us, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to address those.
It doesn't seem like we have any questions at this time. If you want to hold on for a couple minutes, we can see if anyone sends any in.
And again, as Gretchen said at the beginning, if you think of things after the fact, please feel free to send them in and we'll address them at that time.
All right, I think that's it. So on behalf of the Technical Assistance Center, thank you to those that attended today, and thank you, Carol. This webinar will be archived and available at nyctecenter.org under Instructional Resources.